stole my life from me.
Why would I want to steal the life of somebody who eats pieces of shit for breakfast?
When you think about classic sports comedies, Happy Gilmore always comes up. Back in 1996, it made Adam Sandler a household name as a failed hockey player who somehow became a golf star. Almost 3 decades later, Netflix took a big swing and released a sequel, and it turned out to be a huge success. The second movie, co-written by Sandler and his longtime collaborator Tim Herlihy, not only brought back the spirit of the original, but also smashed streaming records. So now people are already wondering, will there be a Happy Gilmore 3? Herlihy was recently asked that exact question in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter. His answer was pretty cautious, but it didn't shut the door. He said he and Sandler haven't actually sat down to discuss a third movie, and he personally hasn't even thought about it. But then he added something interesting. He reminded everyone that they once swore they'd never make a second movie either, and yet here we are with Happy Gilmore 2 breaking Netflix records. In his words, never say never. And honestly, that kind of leaves the door wide open, because if history just proved anything, it's that surprises can definitely happen. The timing feels important too. Right now, the sequel is still fresh, and people are buzzing about it, so it's obviously too early to know any concrete plans. But if you look at the numbers, it's hard not to think Netflix is already paying attention. The movie pulled in 46.7 million views in just its first 3 days. And that's not only the biggest opening for any Adam Sandler movie on Netflix, but also the largest debut for any Netflix film in the US ever. When a movie hits that hard, studios don't just ignore it, they start thinking about what's next. Of course, the gap between the first and second films was massive, 29 years to be exact. Nobody really thought a sequel would happen after so much time, but it did, and people loved it. The original film grew into a cult favorite over the years, while the sequel became an instant smash hit. Because of that, a third movie might not take anywhere near as long to materialize. In fact, Netflix could be tempted to fast-track it, because clearly the appetite is still there. So, if there were a Happy Gilmore 3, what could it even be about? Well, the second movie actually left the door wide open for more. In the sequel, we see Happy, now older and struggling with loss, climb back into the golf world for a noble reason, supporting his daughter's ballet dreams in Paris. By the end, he not only wins the Maxi Tour, but also sends his daughter off to pursue her passion. And yet, the film ends with him still competing in the British Open. That detail alone suggests that his comeback story isn't finished. It's almost like the movie is nudging us to imagine what comes next. And honestly, why wouldn't Netflix want to keep going? The sequel was a record-breaking hit, and fans clearly showed up in droves. It would be a missed opportunity not to capitalize on that energy. Sandler has proven time and again that people love seeing him revisit his iconic characters, and Happy Gilmore is one of the biggest of them all. A third film could easily dive deeper into Happy's late-in-life career, maybe explore how he balances his family and the game, or even push him into some completely new golfing territory. Whatever direction it takes, there's plenty of room to grow. That being said, Happy Gilmore 2 wasn't perfect. It definitely had its high points, but it also tried to do a bunch of things at once, and that made the story feel a little unfocused. The first act was actually pretty strong. It established what Happy's been up to for the last 30 years, gave us a glimpse of his family life, and then hit us with a shocking tragedy. That moment changed everything for him and set up his new goal, helping his daughter get to ballet school in Paris. In a way, it mirrored the motivation he had in the first movie when he fought to save his grandma's house. That emotional core was heartfelt, and it worked because it reminded fans why they cared about Happy in the first place. But as the movie went on, it tried to juggle too many things. The introduction of Maxi Golf, a flashy modernization of the sport, brought in new ideas about tradition versus innovation. On its own, that could have been an interesting theme, but the film didn't fully commit to it, so the story ended up feeling split between being a legacy sequel and a modern sports satire. Both directions had potential, but smashing them together made it harder to focus. Still, some parts really clicked. The family dynamics were fun, especially seeing Happy's daughter, played by Sandler's real-life daughter Sunny, and his 4 sons, who hilariously inherited his short temper. Those moments gave the movie heart and humor at the same time. And Julie Bowen's return as Virginia may have been brief, but it hit the nostalgia button for longtime fans. Although she was underused, her presence added a layer of emotional weight that reminded audiences of the original love story. Where the film stumbled the most was in its desire to go bigger in every possible way. It wasn't just the maxi golf subplot, it was also the sheer number of cameos. Sure, cameos can be fun, and some of them worked, like Bad Bunny's appearance. But after a while, the flood of celebrity faces started to feel distracting. It was almost as if the movie was trying to impress us with who it could get on screen instead of letting the story breathe. At a certain point, it bordered on overkill, and that took away from the heart of the movie. But even though the narrative wasn't perfect, the nostalgia still hit in the right spots. Bringing back characters like Shooter McGavin, played by Christopher McDonald, was a treat. His scenes were some of the funniest, especially the over-the-top graveyard fight, which felt perfectly in line with the ridiculousness of the franchise. Shooter probably deserved a bigger role, but even the little bit we got reminded us why he's such a great antagonist. And then there was Ben Stiller's Hal, the nightmare orderly from the first movie, who was just as awful as ever. His subplot actually tied neatly into Happy's arc, proving that callbacks can be more than just fan service when they're done right. Of course, not all the nostalgic returns had a clear purpose. For example, Chubb's son showing up felt pretty unnecessary. It was clearly meant to connect back to Carl Weathers' beloved character, but it didn't add much to the story. This is where the sequel sometimes struggled, leaning on nostalgia without always giving it a reason to be there. Even so, the fact that people are debating these details is proof of how much love there still is for the franchise. If fans didn't care, nobody would be speculating about what worked or what didn't. And if Netflix is paying attention to that kind of engagement, they know there's an audience eager for more. Interestingly, the Happy Gilmore universe has already spilled into other movies. For example, Shooter McGavin popped up in Beverly Hills Cop Axel F., which was a little fun crossover moment. While it doesn't totally make sense within the Happy Gilmore timeline, it showed how much people enjoy seeing these characters in any capacity. Then there's Ben Stiller's Hal, who also made a quick appearance in Sandler's Hubie Halloween. And even Chubbs himself got a send-off years ago in Little Nicky. All of this just highlights how long-lasting and beloved these characters are. So when you look at everything together, the record-breaking numbers, the nostalgic love, and the open-ended finale, it feels like a third movie isn't just possible, but almost inevitable. Sure, Tim Herlihy and Adam Sandler haven't talked about it yet, but the demand is obvious. Fans want more, and Netflix loves a hit they can turn into a franchise. If Happy Gilmore 3 does happen, it has the chance to learn from the sequel stumbles and focus more tightly on what made the original so great: heart, humor, and a little bit of ridiculousness. The ingredients are all still there. All it takes is the right story, and Happy could easily be teeing off again in another round. Because at the end of the day, Happy Gilmore is about resilience. It's about a guy who doesn't give up, even when the odds are against him. And if the sequel proved anything, it's that fans are more than ready to see Happy keep swinging. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.